Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us for this special midweek edition of HR Mentorship Learning Series. Tonight, we'll be looking at a topic transitioning from consulting to an HR role, insights and strategies. Our facilitator for tonight is Uwem Martins, and she's a first time on this prestigious platform. I would like to read very briefly her profile so we can get better acquainted with her. Ladies and gentlemen, Uwem has over 15 quality years of experience as a management consultant, project manager, and HR leader. She started her career with KPMG Professional Services, where she progressed from an analyst to a manager, all right, in addition, in charge of people and change in the firm's management consulting practice for over 8 years. During that time, she provided enterprise-wide transformation and HR advisory services to clients in many sectors, including education, manufacturing, automobile, aviation, health, oil and gas, just to mention, and even the civil service of Nigeria. From there, she worked at multiple organizations in the non-banking financial service sector, including FMDQ as Group Head of Recruitment and HR Operations, NG Clearing as Head of HR, Tangerine Life Insurance as Group Head HR Operations Lead, as well as a temporary assignment as a consultant and interim head of HR and administration at Teach for Nigeria. In all these places, she pioneered, led the delivery of several HR programs and interventions aimed at improving the efficiency of HR operations, served as a strategic partner and advisor to the organization's leadership, and overall assisted to ensure alignment of people and organizational policies. Ladies and gentlemen, Uwem is proficient in providing people and business advisory service and has extensive experience across HR value chain, including not limited to recruitment and selection, performance management, all right, and learning and development, succession planning, compensation and benefit, HR information systems, HR data analytics, just to mention a few. She holds a bachelor's degree in agricultural economics from the, I was tempted to say Obama University, Obafemi Awolowo University. I'm tempted to say, do you speak Yoruba? All right, Ile-Ife. She's globally certified. All right, she's certified global practitioner, professional in human resources, GP, HR, from the Human Resource Certification Institute, and she's also SHRM Senior Certified Professional, all right, as well as certified in data analysis for management from the London School of Economics and Political Science, one of the schools still in my bucket list. She coaches individuals at the early stage and those interested in HR career. Speaking to us on the topic, transitioning to HR role, insight and strategies. The next voice you'll be hearing is that of Uwem Martins. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Dr. Delsh. You know, that sounded like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire when somebody gets to call a friend. The next voice we'll be hearing. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much, Doctor, for that introduction. And thank you, everyone, for joining this webinar series. It's an honor to be here. I mean, Doctor is doing such an amazing work, and I am just honored to be, you know, a part of what he's doing and to be able to contribute my quota to what he's doing. So thank you all for joining. Like he said, I'll be speaking on transitioning from consulting to an HR role. And I hope nobody gets to ask why not the other way around, from HR to consulting. But if you do ask, I mean, I'm sure we can answer that later on and even consider, you know, a session on that subject. So I'm just going to jump right into my outline for today. What am I going to be speaking about? First, we're going to be looking at, you know, the motivation for a switch in the first place. What's making people want to switch from consulting to HR? We're going to look at the difference between consulting and HR. We're going to look at a little bit about HR's evolution. How did HR start? Where is it now? And what does leadership expect of HR as a function? We're going to look at some key responsibilities for HR and skills that are required for the 21st century HR professional. We would also look at transferable consulting skills. We'll look at what to do to build HR expertise. And we're going to talk a bit about navigating the transition process, which, of course, that has to do with the challenges you are likely to face and how you could or you can shorten the learning curve and thrive in your role as an HR professional. Okay, at the end of that, we will take questions, comments, and while we're pushing the questions to the end, right, if you do have, please feel free to drop comments in the chat. Along the line, I'll ask you to engage, to say something. Please feel free to say that in the chat as well. Once again, thank you so much for joining, and we will go right into it. So, introduce ourselves. Which category do you fall into? I have 5 possible categories here on my screen. People who are considering a transition from consulting to HR, and that's category A. So you're here because you want to know what to expect, what's it going to be like in HR. Category B are those who are, who have already transitioned and need clarity to thrive, or just need tips on how to be better, and live up to the expectations that management has. Category C is the newbie who is considering a career in HR and wants to know what to do to be able to thrive as an HR person in today's world. Category D would be those who are subject matter experts and are here to contribute to the topic. Please, like I said, feel free, drop those comments in the chat, and add to the discussion when we get to the Q&A. And then if you're a friend of the house, I see you in your supporters club jerseys. Thank you for being here. So please tell us, which category are you in? A, B, C, D, or E? Type something in the chat. Let's know where you are. Which category you fall into. Very quickly, A, B, C, D, or E. And it can be a mix, Thank you, B-Song. Category C. Amazing. Someone just gave a disclaimer, D, but not contributing. Okay, that's fine. Toby, C, Omoba, D and E. Amazing. B and C, category A. Nice. C. Okay, so I see that every category, has a representative. So thank God. Welcome once again. So nice to meet you all. And I hope that you, have a good time, engaging on this topic. So let's go right into it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Next slide. Okay. So, like I said, we're starting with what the motivation is for the switch. Why would anybody consider switching from consulting to HR? And I mean, there are different reasons, okay? I have a few here as well. One of them is, somebody who is interested in working in a people-centric role. So this person feels, I like to interact with people. I think maybe the life of a consultant can be boring, it can be lonely. So I want to interact with people a lot more on a day-to-day basis, okay? There are people who are looking for stability and predictability. The life of a consultant, it can be, you're here today, tomorrow you're elsewhere. So you want things to be a bit more stable for you, depending on what stage you're at in your own life. And sometimes there's a consultant who has done a lot of designs. You've designed this, you designed a framework for this, a framework for that, and then you're thinking, how can I implement? Okay, beyond designing, how can I actually implement? And then there's the one who is interested in org development. So you want to see, what are those basic things, those building blocks that we would put together to make an organization's HR practice stand, pretty much. And they're thinking of how they can get involved in that as consultants, beyond just, working at a very high level. And then there are those who have a passion for employee advocacy. You know, even as a consultant, maybe in some of the projects you've been working on, you're thinking, how can we make this, how can we ensure that the employee gets benefits? You want the voice of the employee to be heard. You want them to be considered in everything management is doing. If that is you, think about it, let us know. And if you're just looking for career growth, you've done consulting for a while and you're thinking, what next? How can I get more money? Because there is some gist that consultants don't get too much money at some levels. So you're looking for more in terms of growth and remuneration. So what is your motivation? If you have switched already, what was your motivation? If you are considering switching, what is your motivation? And if you're new, like I said, what is your motivation? Why HR? I'll share briefly. Again, I mean, on this presentation, I'm talking about my own personal experience a lot, even as I share these things. And what was my motivation? I think my first motivation was the desire for stability. I was traveling quite a bit and I wanted to, stop the traveling. I had started to grow a family and I thought, okay, I would like to be in one place because the unit I was in, there was just no way I was going to stop traveling, that frequently. So I wanted stability. I also wanted to do beyond design. I think one of the projects I had worked on, there was a need to support them with some implementation. And I saw a different side of things, and so I was thinking, okay, maybe going into an HR role, would then help me to, implement. Okay. And then, of course, I was looking for career growth and better remuneration. So those were my reasons, those were my reasons. So what is your motivation for those who are considering our category A and categories A, B, and C? Please let us know what your reason was in the chat. And just for the record, especially for the newbies, people sometimes have a wrong impression of HR, right? So while we're thinking about, why do you want to switch? Why HR? If you're thinking that HR is chilled, there isn't a lot of work in HR. Excuse me. And you think, let me just go do HR. HR is not hard. Please, this is a note of warning. Those who have been practicing HR for a bit, they can tell you, okay, it is not a chilled role, not anymore. And we'll talk about the evolution. All right. A side joke, my mom, used to think this way, but I won't blame her because her generation, for them, HR was administrative, it was personnel management. And so when I switched, she would ask questions like, what's going on? Why is your work still so busy? Is it not HR? Is it not personnel management? At the time, I didn't, I couldn't completely relate. But later on, I got to know that actually it's different. Back then it was different. Today it is, something completely different. So note of warning to everyone, please, it is not a chilled zone, okay? So we're going to try to look at the difference between consulting and HR a little bit, very high level. So you think about the life of a consultant, what are they doing? They're providing strategic advice, to an organization. They come, an organization says they want to move from point A to point B. They want to improve, ABC or whatever it is, their finance function, their strategy, implementation, whatever it is. So consultant comes in, looks at things, and then gives them advice on what to do and goes away and leaves them to do it. Now, who does that thing? Who implements the advice? Most likely it is HR. Okay, so what the consultant has, defined, HR then goes ahead to start to implement. All right, and then if it was even an HR project specifically, then HR is solely responsible for implementing. In some other cases, HR may partner with, other units to implement. So basically, consulting focuses on the very high level things, high level strategic planning. A company wants to define where they are going, their roadmap for the next 5 years, the next 10 years. It's a consultant that helps them do that. They're trying to see how they can break into an industry or expand their operations, to different locations or different industries. Let's say they're working in one industry, they want to have multiple industries of operations. So all of that, That's what the consultant helps to do. But HR focuses on people management, okay, relating with employees on a day-to-day. Now this is for those whose motivation is or was to, interact with people-centric guys, okay? And HR is focused on that. And overall, HR's job really is to ensure that whatever HR is doing aligns with where the organization is going, okay? If you're following me, please just say following in the chat, following. So again, the life of a consultant has a lot of travel involved, most times, okay? Most times. Your client can be in Lagos today, the next client can be in Abuja, the next one can be in Enugu, So it can be anywhere, and it's different projects. Thank you so much, those following. So it can be different projects, different industries, and it varies. There are almost no two projects are the same. But for HR, you're limited to one organization. It's more predictable. If it's oil and gas industry, that's where you are, and you stay there. And then last but not least, the consultant's work has an indirect impact on employees. We say indirect because, whatever it is, like we said, it's high level. So when the company decides to implement it, they approve it and say, let's run with it, there is most likely going to be an impact on employees. And that's because the employee is responsible or would support the implementation of that strategic plan, so to speak. And sometimes even when it is not implemented, there may also be some impact on employees, but then it's indirect, okay? But for HR, everything HR does has a direct impact on employees, because sometimes it's not even based on something that has been defined by a consultant, okay? But just day to day, HR's work has a direct impact on employees. And then when it has to do with, implementing a strategy that has been approved, all right, HR has to ensure that employees are developed, they have the right skills, they have everything they need, basically, including a positive culture to be able to implement and to help the organization achieve its overall objective. So you see, there's a difference, right? And in an organization that uses both consultants and of course has an HR team, there just has to be that collaboration between both. A consultant should not come and do his work and ignore HR, and HR should not push the consultant to one side and say, oh no, just do your work and go out of here. All right, their works are related, even though there is a clear difference between both of them. And we talked a bit about how HR has evolved over the years. I told you years ago, my mom said, HR is personnel management, okay? But it's true, back in the day, HR was purely administrative, okay? It was just transactions. We want to pay salaries every month, make sure that we have the information to pay salaries. We want to remit taxes, we do that. We want to keep records of employees, want to, confirm them. Those were the things HR was limited to. But today it has evolved, okay? And in fact, the only word that can describe it is transformational, because it's a lot. The scope of HR's work is so wide. And then, several HR models have also been developed from that time till now. And they have spoken a lot about HR's role. And there are several of these models. At the end of the presentation, I have some links, that you can look a bit more to study some more about the models I'm talking about. But I'll just speak about one or two of them. One of them is the standard causal model, and then this one, so this model is just one that says the business strategy, okay, feeds into HR strategy, and that feeds into HR's practices and processes, which then has an impact on business performance, okay? It also recognizes the fact that sometimes some actions by HR would have a direct impact on internal performance. And then also sees that, when an organization starts to see this kind of progress and they then begin to reinvest a lot more in HR's programs, then there will definitely be better outcomes. So some organizations run on this model, and you find that, and based on that mindset, management, executive leadership is working with HR hand in hand to deliver on its objectives. And then there's also the Ulrich model, which talks about how HR has 4 key roles. Okay, HR on one hand must be the administrative expert, on the other hand must be the employee champion, must be the change agent, must also be a strategic partner to management. Okay, it looks at all of these roles of HR and based on that forms an expectation. Okay, and so that just brings us to what is management expecting? The capabilities, the capabilities that management has, for HR. All right, so one of them is that they expect HR to understand the business. Okay, so because to be able to support it, to move from point A to B, and to develop the employees to support that vision, HR must understand the business and align its practices, its policies, its programs to what the business objectives are. HR must be able to manage people effectively. HR must understand data. Management to tell you, if HR goes to tell management something, and then, the CEO is going to say, what's the source? What's the proof of that? It has to be backed up with data. Back in the day, it was not a big expectation, but today it is. What are you saying? What are you doing? And why? Give us statistics. And you must be able to use technology as well. You won't come in and then not, in fact, you won't come in and struggle with using technology. Why? Because most of our organizations are powered by systems. There are ERPs, there are HR information systems, there are finance systems. So if you're not able to understand how these things work, then the HR person will not be effective. So a quick look at the responsibilities of, okay. I think I need to practice how to move from one slide to the other. Okay, so we look at responsibilities for HR in the 21st century, and we're saying, what are those things? Most of us already know some of these things, but then there's workforce planning, succession planning. What do we need today, given where the business is, in terms of numbers, the different units that make up the organization, and of course, for the future, the next level of leadership, the next level of managers or middle managers, what do we need? Who's helping to do that? It's HR. Talent acquisition, where are we getting people from? How are we getting them? How are we attracting them to us? What is that message we're giving them to make them come to us? And how do we ensure that they settle in properly and get productive sooner than later? That's talent acquisition, and of course, the entire onboarding process. And I won't spend too much time on L&D, learning, development, performance management, compensation, benefits, employee relations. All of these are critical parts of what HR does. Reporting, regulatory compliance. Several companies have, of course, gotten into trouble when, some compliance requirements were not met. Okay, and I had talked briefly about employer brand management, culture. All right, where we bring in employees, how do we keep them staying? What is that message we give them that they continue to desire to be a part of? Okay, and how do we ensure that they become ambassadors of the organization? So all of this lies within the responsibilities of HR. And for HR to be able to do these things, it just means that there's, it's a wide range of skills that are required. It's beyond just knowing what documents to collect from an employee, or knowing an employee's bank account details. There is communication, okay, there's problem solving. In fact, I think like the most important, the most critical responsibilities or skills rather for HR, it's communication, conflict resolution, because there will be conflict, right? And then problem solving. These three are so critical. And this is in addition to you knowing the subject. Yes, you must know the subject. So what are those things that will help you succeed? But then it then expands, it keeps expanding. communication is in different, forms, whether verbal, whether written. Who are you communicating to, whether to employees, to executive management, to the board? How do you say what it is you want to say without losing the message, without losing your audience, and then just ensuring that you're communicating the right things, to the people you're talking to. There will be problems every single day in an organization, every single day. And it's almost as if, if somebody has an intercom on their table, there's a problem. HR, there's a problem. HR, that's what happens. So how is the HR person able to solve problems? What, elements, what do they look at to consider a matter and make a decision? And that goes to, that adds to decision making. Okay, how do you arrive at that decision? And how bold or confident are you to make a decision? Some people sleep on a matter, you can sleep on it for so long, all right? But it doesn't work if you're in HR. It won't work for you because it will then leave you not making decisions, and not making a decision is as good as, or rather is as bad as making a poor decision, So the more nimble you are, to make your decisions fast, get the facts right, and, move. So critical. Understanding the industry, we talked about understanding the business. So HR must understand the client's or the company's business. What does this company do? How do we make money? How do we make money? What are the processes or the systems that support us to make money? Who are those that are, facing our customers? Who are those that are supporting? So if HR is not able to, or does not have a good understanding of all of this, then you can't support the business. You can't be that strategic partner to the business. And all these other things that are, also very fantastic. Programs and events planning. You see, there's team bonding sessions that HR is planning. There's strategy sessions, or team, what do companies call it now? Retreats. HR is the one planning most of those things. All right. So how, if you don't know how to do it, how are you going to do it? Negotiation. There are different kinds of vendors, whether it's training vendors or whether it's technology vendors. How do you negotiate to get the best benefits for your organization? We talk about business acumen, how they make money, how the money comes in, the different avenues through which it goes out, and how you can even keep the expenses down. All right. There's also financial acumen, talking numbers now. Can you look at the financial statements and, interpret it? Do you know what is turnover versus what is profit and all that? All of these are things that HR must know. And of course, technology utilization, we cannot say it enough, especially not in today's world, And HR too is also an investigator. Somebody comes and tells you something or reports a case to you, before you make a decision, some of your fact-finding, methods. How do you go about digging deep, digging to the, getting to the bottom of it, and ensuring that your decision is based on complete and accurate information? So you look at the HR function today, it's 21st century, and even in the future, these are some of the desirable skills that HR is expected to have. Okay, and since you're coming from consulting, you're then thinking, what skills can I bring from consulting? I've been a consultant for 2 years, 4 years, 10 years. What are those things? You would find that a lot of the skills that are required for HR, you already have them, you already got them from consulting. We talked about how consultants work across different industries. All right, so you're coming with industry knowledge. And especially when you're transitioning, I think you need to also consider your own background. Which industries do you have the most experience in? Just so that you can, again, shorten the learning curve for yourself. Or if you're interested in challenging yourself to, learn about a completely new industry, then it's also good, because as a consultant, you do it anyway. All right, so industry knowledge, all of these things, a lot of these things, are things that you already do in consulting. And so you can take them anywhere. You can take them to HR. There are events to be planned. I mean, you plan projects all the time. this project is going to last for 1 month or for 2 months. What are the things we need for the project? You're articulating them, you're thinking about the resources you need, the people you need, what you need to do and when. All of that help you in your role as HR. So all of these skills are transferable from consulting. And the truth is, it would differ, depending on the kinds of consulting projects you worked on. Some people are in strategy consulting, some are in HR consulting, some are in financial, consulting, mergers and acquisitions. There are different aspects now, different subsections of consulting as a whole. So which of them have you worked in? What are your strengths? Which ones, what do you know? How well do you know it? And how can you then utilize it in HR? Okay. And even though, so yes, in all of this, there are transferable skills from consulting to HR, but then the core of HR, the core of the HR work, we talked about succession planning, workforce planning, all of the different segments of HR. How are you going to build the expertise? So that's now where you need to work on when you're thinking of transitioning. And even if you've transitioned and you have not done these things yet, or some of these things yet, then it's time to start considering them. There are different short courses you can do, to upskill in HR. You could even go for a degree program. Some people would go for a second BSc, others would go for a master's, an MBA, or a postgraduate diploma, any of those things. Or some people just live off blogs and articles and research from several places. And there are lots. Of course, the leading HR institutions we have, CIPM, CIPD, SHRM, HRCI, all of them, they have loads and loads of resources. And then, of course, there are the formal schools, the Harvard, the Lagos Business Schools, all of them have courses on HR. The online options, Udemy has a lot, Coursera has a lot, AI HR, Hacking HR, all of these are places where you can get the resources you need to build HR expertise. And then if you're thinking of practical, experience, hands-on, yes, you've learned the theory a little bit, you're looking for how to practice it, then an internship would help you. Which company can you, volunteer to intern with, or which company is looking for an intern? Or, sometimes you can initiate those conversations, go ask about if you can, intern for a short period so that you can get some skills. And I see this a lot, young people, for instance, I studied agri-economics, right? And I know the situation in Nigeria. In fact, well, in some other countries, actually, you study one particular course and you come out and you do not want to practice that course. And then you're thinking about what to do. Okay, so people would pick interest in HR and say, oh yes, can I come intern? I don't have any experience, I'm fresh from school, 3 months, 6 months, some up to 1 year, depending on how much time they have. That is a good time to build the foundational skills that you need. And because it's hands-on, almost nothing can take it away from you. Okay, and then of course, as you learn, both the theory and the practical, you also then have to be thinking about certifications. What certification do you want? Do you want a generalist certification, or you want something more specialist? Some people go for specialist options, and again, the options are numerous. So whatever it is, all right, what I want you to leave with is, to leave here with is the fact that you have transferable skills from consulting or anywhere else, and you have to build HR expertise. All right. And even as you learn, again, it's almost like it's ongoing learning, because the HR landscape continues to evolve. We've seen how it's evolved from administrative to transformational. Now, in fact, I don't know what name we're going to give it in the future. Maybe Doctor can help us, But it's going in a completely different direction. And the more, these changes happen, the more you have to stay up to date. If not, you will just be left behind. Okay, so armed with all of these things, right, the next thing is, what is this process going to be like, right? How do I navigate this process? Because change management, in whatever enterprise, in whatever objective or thing it is, when there is a change, that process must be managed. If it's not managed properly, then you find that the people involved struggle. All right. Sometimes we have very lofty plans. We go into it and we have not considered the possible challenges that we would face. Okay. So with this, what's important to note is you may have all the consulting experience, which is great. You may build the HR expertise, which is also really great. But then there are some challenges that you will face. There is no way you will face these challenges. And I'll speak about some of the ones I face. You would, these challenges are real. And I think that the first one for me, was this adjusting to a different work environment and culture. Sometimes people expect organizations to be pretty much the same. Sometimes you see the people involved in an organization. Oh, they're young people, they're smart, they're very forward thinking and all that. But yes, they can be all that. But the company's culture may be completely different from what you're used to. How do you navigate it? Do you even, first of all, I think it takes knowing what the culture is, all right? Knowing what to expect, asking questions, all right? And then adjusting to it. Don't expect to bring your culture from your consulting firm to this new organization. And I'll give you my own personal example. So I would say in consulting, there are peak periods, there are, non-peak periods. When it's peak period, I can be working around the clock. I would give everything to do what has to be done. When it's non-peak period, I'm definitely relaxed. So I'd leave the office earlier than usual. My lunch break, instead of 30 minutes, I can make it 45 minutes. There isn't really much on my table. I can even come in a bit later. Those are the times when I'll fix my dental appointment, early in the morning. And then from there, I get to the office, or in the middle of the day, something of that nature. Or if I work really late, on a particular day, and all the deliverables have been submitted, the next day, I could have my team members come in a bit late, and there's no big deal, all right, in the culture I'm used to. So I moved to a company, of course, that wasn't the culture. And I guess I initially assumed, but then I took the initiative to ask, even though my asking was late. I'm like, please, since we worked so late today, can I come in a bit later tomorrow? The backlash I received, I can't even describe it. So definitely that one was a no-no. There's nothing like, you work late, come late, come late tomorrow. No, every day, come rain or shine, we are here. Whether or not you finished your deliverables, come at the time you're supposed to come, resume. Just like banks, whatever the case, they're resuming at this 7 a.m. or something, for some or 7:30, they must resume. So that culture is definitely different from, the culture in consulting. When you leave consulting and you get into, the organization, most likely that's when you will be experiencing organizational politics live. Okay, so you're going to see things. Sometimes they will throw you off and you're like, okay, how do I go? Which direction do I take? Which camp, should I pitch my own tent at? But, just knowing that HR, you really shouldn't have any camps, right? You shouldn't have any camps, but you must be aware of the camps. You must be aware of the camps. But always also remember that, yes, while you're trying to serve the people, so to speak, your primary assessor or the person who determines your performance is the CEO. So just make sure that you are aligned with the CEO's objectives, the organization's objectives, okay? And understand the politics and make sure you're not on the wrong side of it. There is the issue of sometimes, especially if you've been a manager in consulting, and then you had managerial responsibilities. You could make decisions and stuff like that. Sometimes you get into the organization and you find that, no, you can't just make a decision like that. You can't just make a decision like that. You know, it must pass through certain, processes. All right. And be okay with the fact that even if you recommend something and you think that, oh, this decision is going to be taken, if it is not taken ultimately, calm down, be okay with it. Okay? Be okay with it. Just calm down and accept it. If not, you may just be giving yourself headache a lot. I'll admit once again, I gave myself headache a lot. But my first experience during my switch taught me a lot of things, and so here I am sharing some of these, realities, honestly. Then there's the aspect where, because as HR, the employee is expecting you to be their friend, yet at the back of their minds, they still see you as their enemy. And there you were trying to build relationships with them, engage, make sure that you can find somebody who's telling you the truth about the matter. Because sometimes people have, wrong motives. They would come and tell you something that they know is incorrect and watch to see how you deal with it. Okay, so you must be aware of all this. Try to build relationships. Yes, just and know that, first of all, not every employee would like you. And they're all not actually supposed to like you like that. They may not in the end, no matter what you do. But just make sure that, you're doing what you're supposed to do in terms of, whether it's following policies or ensuring that your programs and practices are in alignment with the organization's objectives, the culture that you have said or that the company has said is their culture. So just have this in mind that you would sometimes be viewed as the enemy. All right. So what you can then do is ensure that, or try to always make sure that you're as transparent as possible. Make sure that when you say yes, you mean yes. Don't make waivers for one person when you know you will make the same waivers for another person, because they start to see you as inconsistent, and your trust meter drops. Okay, people say that, oh, you can't be trusted, you're not consistent, today you said this, tomorrow you did something else. So all of these are very important for you to know. Sometimes the struggle to find the time to develop your HR skills, or even the industry skills, especially if you're going to an industry that you had no idea about. You have to build some knowledge and understanding of that industry. So that can also be a challenge, but give yourself time. Take it one at a time. Give yourself, set short, measurable goals for yourself, and know that knowledge is progressive. Okay? And then, of course, dealing with day-to-day HR responsibilities. This was another area I struggled with. When I switched, I had never done HR operations, never. And so when I got there, sometimes you get an organization, and you find there's a backlog of things, a backlog of operational things that should have happened, and they had not happened. And then, hey, finally, HR person is here. Okay, everything back goes. What? I was almost not breathing. In the first 3 months, I'm like, wait. Am I still in consulting or not? Because this peak period, it seems like it's an endless peak period. So sometimes the day-to-day of HR can be overwhelming. It can be a lot. And remember that as a consultant, you have a project plan. There are very rare occasions when project plans will just change suddenly, and all the tasks would need to be done on day 1 or day 2. Okay, but with HR handling day-to-day employee matters, it could happen. Things can change overnight, and all of a sudden, something needs to be done the next day. Sometimes, though, it is, the leadership or the management, it's their work style. It could be that. In some other cases, it is something really critical, either driven by regulatory requirements and all of that. So just know that day-to-day for HR can be exhausting. Okay? So these are typical challenges that, I feel that anyone would face in an HR position, especially when transitioning from consulting. Please feel free to drop some in the comments. I've been trying to chat in the chat, sorry, I've been trying to open the chat again, but it just keeps taking the presentation away. So I'm not going to go there right now, but later on, I will take a look and see what we are saying. So how can you shorten the learning curve and thrive? How can you shorten the learning curve and thrive? Again, remember I was speaking from experience. Some of the things that I did not do, attending HR events. I stayed in my silo for so long. The HR professionals I connected with were those in my immediate circle only. But you know, attending HR events, you get to see so many other people. You get to understand things from different perspectives. You get to see what's happening in other organizations and hear what's happening in other organizations. So in the beginning, I wasn't doing this. But along the line, I started and I saw the benefits and then I continued. So please, one of the ways you can shorten the learning curve for yourself is by attending HR events. Okay, whether virtual, in person, attend. Okay, you would meet people who are specialists in, you know, certain areas. Perhaps you're not a specialist there. Connect with them. Connect with people who are your peers. Connect with those who are ahead of you, so that you can learn something from them. You can, you know, there's always something to benefit from both your peers and even those ahead of you. And a newbie can also see you at one of those events and you get a chance to pour into the person as well. You know, so as you're giving, you're also taking. Rather, as you're taking, you're also giving. You know, that is so important. And then leveraging online learning resources. I already mentioned a lot of them, you know, the Udemy, the Coursera, AIHR, there are lots, you know, and even from the certification institutes that we have in HR, there are lots. So subscribe to them, get their emails, get newsletters. As a member, you would have all of this information and you'll find that you're constantly learning at the rate that you should. On the internal side, it's so important that you're seeking feedback. Ask your people for feedback. Okay, ask how you're doing. In consulting, at the end of every project, I mean, sometimes in between, you know, you can always ask your project manager for feedback. How did I do on this work? How did I do on this task? Take the same mindset to your HR role. How did I do on this? How did I do on that? This program we rolled out, how was it? Some of it, and this feedback is not just coming from, you know, your manager, the CEO, from the organization. So your surveys, all of these go a long way in helping you know what you did right, what you did not do so right, you know, and just identify areas for improvement. So please seek feedback all the time. And when you seek feedback, take the feedback. Even if you don't agree 100%, just go back and, you know, sort through the words and see what you can take out of there, so that the next time the people can also see that you took their feedback, you've implemented it, and maybe things were done a bit differently. Okay. And then last but not least, work at your manager's pace. As a consultant, there's a temptation to, you know, want to run, you know, with a plan. You run with a plan, you just go, because you're, especially if you're passionate about it, you just go head in, bam, you're following it, going, splash, you know. But sometimes it may not be top priority for your manager, you know, CEO, senior leadership, whoever it is. It may not be top priority for them. It may have been last week, but this week things have changed. Okay, so I think at every point in time, try to match their pace. Match their pace. If they say priorities have changed, you too change direction immediately. You know, stop trying to push for something that has been moved to the back burner. Focus on what they want to focus on, because at the end of the day, you are there to serve them. Remember HR as a strategic partner. Okay, so you're partnering with them. It is not HR's objective, in quotes, it is the organization's objective. HR's role or HR's objective ultimately is to help achieve the organization's objective. So that's why it is so important to be working at your manager's space. So that brings me to the end of this, you know, presentation. just a recap of what we've talked about. We've talked about the difference between HR and consulting. We talked about the skills required, the responsibilities for the 21st century HR professional. Talked about how HR evolved. And like I said, there's some resources at the end that you can, take a look at to learn a few more things. We've looked at the skills required for HR and the consulting skills that you can, transfer to HR. We've also talked about the typical challenges you could face while transitioning, and I've shared tips on how to overcome them. And last but not least, I've shared strategies for shortening the learning curve for yourself, just making it easier for yourself and thriving in your role, after you have transitioned. So thank you so much. At this point, my final words would just be that, navigating the transition process strategically with a plan is, critical to your success. It's beyond you gaining HR expertise. It's beyond you having consulting skills, but, the nuances, the peculiarities of this new role, you need to be able to manage them, strategically, intentionally, and not let balls drop. And truth is, once you're committed to it, dedicated, you stay on it, you will surely succeed in your role. So thank you so much. At this point, I will like to take questions. And I'm going to try to go back to the chat now. Let's see. Doctor, are you there? Okay, I'm going to the chats. Let's see, what do we have in the chats?
Thank you so much for that beautiful, enlightening, engaging session. That was a delight to listen to. You're a natural, very articulate, flow, sequencing. Comfort, you have the floor, please. You can unmute. If you'd like to ask your questions or share your experience, contribute to this discourse, just raise your hands and we'll enable you to speak.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the expository. First and foremost, you talked about your motivation for having to leave consulting to the mainstream HR. And some of your motivation was want to be stable to avoid traveling and also getting higher paychecks. So now the question is, in recent times, people from mainstream HR, due to the side hustle, side gigs, because we are in a digital space, we tend to navigate to consulting, picking a niche, either in recruitment, talent, people, data analytics, and then having to juggle between the two. We have sometimes saddled with a reduction in pay cuts. So this is what I want you to share more light on it, because it's abounding. Working in the big five consulting, you are at that ebb of high pay, but coming to the lower side of the consulting firm, your pay is so minute that when you even see some mainstream HR role whose pay are higher than what you're currently receiving, you want to drop the buck and move to the HR. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your question. Just so I understand. So you're saying sometimes even after you have switched, you find yourself going back to, side hustles and it's consulting. Is that it? So your question, okay, so your question is, how do you manage like if your motivation was pay, how do you getting what pay? Is that correct? Okay. All right. Nice question. Okay, so I think first of all, in fact, I actually thought you were going to say but you are still consulting. So have you really switched? But I mean, thanks for not asking it like that. But I mean, yes, I still consult, on the side. And I mean, I have done this side by side, for a bit as well. So what do I want to comment on this? I think my comment on this is, first of all, in terms of priorities, when you do decide to switch, of course, the HR role that you take on or the new role you take on becomes your primary objective. My suggestion would be to first settle down, stabilize in that role before you start to add on, your side gigs, your consulting, projects and stuff like that. Because yes, they would always happen. So understand your environment, settle in well, know the pace. Talk about understanding the culture, the work environment, and the pace. Once you have all that, then you can then start adding on. Now, how do you manage small pay? So the small pay, if you're doing side gigs, consulting, most likely, like in my case, most likely, the clients you will be serving would be small businesses. So I think it's almost normal that the pay would be lower. No small business would be able to pay, to pay a consultant what, other businesses pay, like a KPMG, So basically, just know that the pay for your side gigs will be less. All right. If you're lucky, it may be, sometimes it may match what you're earning in your HR role. All right. But it will differ. Again, depending on the clients you have, the kinds of work you're doing for them. One client can pay you 50,000, another one can pay you 200,000. So it will vary. How do you manage that low pay? I think it's just the understanding that sometimes there will be windfalls, sometimes there won't be. So how to manage your money, and I think that's another thing that HR people or everyone really in the workforce should know about. How to make money, how to manage it, how to multiply it. So when there's a lot, what do you do with the excess? When there's little, what do you do with that little that you have? I hope I've been able to answer your question.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Any more questions, comments, clarifications, contributions? Taken through? Or anyone who would like to share experience very quickly? Just to let you know that the next time you'll be chatting with OM, you'll be paying consultancy fee. Just so you know. I can see my boss would like to contribute. Princess, you have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you, my Oga. He's my boss. I'm his boss. He's my Oga.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. And Madam OM, thank you very much for sharing knowledge with us on this platform today. What I was just going to say is that, interestingly, the switch that you're talking about is usually the other way around.
Okay.
People finish from HR, or people are getting too inundated with their work in HR and decide to become a consultant. So it's not in a lot of cases that you have people saying, oh gosh, I'm tired of consultancy and I want to go into HR, unless the pay that you're getting is really humongous. So, I'm trying to take my head around, what you've just done, because for me, I've retired from, active service or work, and I'm now full-blown consultant, which I had been doing as a little side hustle whilst I was still working. And I was a public servant. And so my consultancy, because that is my strength of work for a long time. So my consultancy is more geared towards, public service, doing things, within the public service and all of that. But, your presentation today is a journey that I've been through, because having worked in HR, and I came in when there had to be a transformation. I came into the public service when they had to actually, we were the one that drove the transformation from personnel management into HR. So I fully understand, where you were coming from when you said mom and dad, or something. So those in those days, or what we call the baby boomers generation, they were dealing with personnel management, and it was such a struggle, for us to break into giving them HR because they're so used to their admin, they couldn't understand it, they couldn't, so it was a real struggle. But as we're settled in a little bit now, and they're really embracing the HR. And as a matter of fact, a lot of them are becoming HR certified, ensuring that they get the HRPL so that they can, because it's now been linked into their promotions and, the entry level requirements and all of that. And a lot of the things that you are talking about are the things that I had to take on whilst I'm now transiting into becoming a full-time management consultant and HR consultant, because I was skewed only to the public service side of things. Now I have to go into more private sector, look at all the ways of the public sector. And, the important thing is that you need to retrain and retrain yourself, be aware of new, things that are happening, new ways of work, new lives of work, and this is one of the reasons why I'm always, as best as I can, I have to be on this platform to join, and support, because I'm always learning new things. And I just want to encourage each and every one of us, irrespective of what you're doing. You don't know what's going to happen around the corner. So just make sure that you are always available to learn, unlearn, relearn, overlearn, and just equip yourself. Well done, ma'am. Thank you very much. My Oga, thank you, sir, for keeping it going all the time. I've been out of the loop for a bit because I'm out of Nigeria, and that's why I couldn't join for a bit. But I hope I'll be able to start coming back now. Thank you. Well done, everyone.
Welcome, and thank you for your regular contributions and strategic input. At least I think I guess who the boss is now.
Obvious. So it's obvious who the boss is. It's obvious who the. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your comments.
Thank you.
If I may add, if I may say something. So apparently, right, the transition in multiple stages. So yes, while you may not have seen a lot of people, that move from consulting to HR, I have. In fact, I can tell you for a fact, everyone that was in my units, almost everyone that was in my units, at the time, 9 out of 10 of them are in HR roles today. I know people from, at least 2 consulting firms, 2 of the big 4 consulting firms that moved from, consulting to HR. Some moved to strategy, but a lot that I know moved to HR. So now, the next stage of the transition, right? Like you have said, you've done HR for a while, and later on, you're thinking of retirement, you're thinking next steps. I don't want to work in an organization for the rest of my life, pretty much. So what's next is to start doing that, that's your side business, growing it, building your client base, so that as you retire, which you have now done, you can have people you can be providing services to. So it's almost like, it feels like it's the same thing. Like like you have said, all these things, you did them while you were transitioning. So whether moving from consulting to HR back to consulting, as you're slowing things down a bit, it's the same skills. You're bringing your HR expertise to the table, you're bringing your consulting expertise to the table, and just understanding where it is you're moving to, the terrain you're going to, and then how to operate optimally in that terrain. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for that comment. I see there are a number of questions now in the chat. Okay, I'll try to take them one after the other. I think the first one I see is from Bison. If there's a previous one, please help me. How can HR in an organization manage employees that has not been promoted for years after working very well and training new employees? Wow. Okay, this is outside the subject, but I would try to respond to it. So how can HR manage employees that has not been promoted? I think the first question would be, for me, would be, why has the employee not been promoted? There are policies guiding promotion, and 99% of the time it's based on performance. So if the employee is not performing well enough to earn a promotion, then should the person be exited from the organization? What improvement plan do you have in place? Or what are your policies regarding performance improvements? So that you can help that person to meet the minimum requirements for promotion. Okay, and if not, then consider exiting, you again, based on your policies. So how can HR manage the employee? The way to manage the employee is to have honest conversations, for me. I think there's nothing like transparency. I value transparency, 100%. If it's black, please tell me it's black. Don't tell me it looks like gray during the day and light brown in the night. No, tell me as it is. If there's something I need to do, let me know. And I believe that employees, if they get such honest feedback, they would appreciate it. So employee who has not been promoted for a while, hey, young man, young woman, these are the issues. This is what the company's policies say. This is what your performance has been over the years. You said 4 years, it could be 2 years, it can be 5 years, it can be 10 years. This is what has happened. This is why other people, either in similar roles or those who came and joined you, have moved forward. All right. Great organizations do. Okay, so just in case somebody was witch hunting that employee, or the person's work was not visible enough, then HR needs to try to find out why this person is not being promoted. And if it's because of performance, please give the person honest feedback. If it is not because of performance, then get to the root of it. And whatever it is, make your recommendations and push for an implementation. Okay. I hope I've answered that question. The next one for me is, I would like to know if the mentoring program, okay. I'm sorry, because more messages have come. I'm trying to get there. 1 second. I would like to know if the mentoring program management have internship and volunteering avenues for members. Doctor, I think this may be for you.
Yes, I've responded that HR jobs, including internship opportunities, are shared regularly as they're available.
Good, great. Thank you so much. Well done, doctor, well done. Okay. Faye Shetson says, I'm currently transitioning from consulting to HR after 2+ years. Okay. Nice one, Faye. I hope that the session helped you and you can add some more things to your arsenal. Okay. Sickness is a problem with performance is not in. Okay. I think you're answering some of the questions, yeah? I know moving to HR is a new trend, even other professionals. Yeah, HR is really hard business. Yes. So other professions, yes. I like this comment too. Lawyers are also moving. I haven't seen accounts. Oh no, so I have seen an accountant, somebody who studied accounting and then moved to HR. And I remember being surprised. It's not the norm, but yes, I haven't seen an architect. Engineers I have seen, yes. Yeah, right. So it's happening. Clearly it's happening both ways, with everything. There's, this direction, the other direction. So I think that's all with the questions.
Yes, please. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. This has been a very exciting session. Again, just to add that sometimes I tell people that when you see a topic that doesn't look orthodox, you need to join that webinar and you need to listen to that session, because I put it to you that you are going to get extra insights that will be transformational for you on your career journey. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we need to learn to listen, to things that doesn't look, what's the word now? Some things will look exciting. I'll give you an example, like Onwe. So sometimes we do industry-focused HR. So we did an HR training on HR peculiarities in oil and gas. Guess what? We didn't have enough space for everybody to join the webinar.
Wow.
You understand? HR peculiarities oil and gas. Then a week later, we did HR peculiarities in aviation. Then we had like less than half of the audience. Meanwhile, I attended the 2 sessions and I learned from the aviation more than the oil and gas. You understand what I mean? So again, I watch out for uncharted territories and waters, because that is, maybe because I'm also slightly academic, that is where frontiers of knowledge and insights and wisdom will come forth. So please, listen again to this session, share it with your colleagues and your friends. I must thank you very sincerely, Onwe Martins, for initiating this conversation, for scheduling this session, for putting your thoughts, ideas into slides, and for speaking life into it. For me, I've been tremendously blessed, and I really got value for my time. And I can say that is the same experience for everyone that has joined tonight. You know how we typically like to end our sessions? Well, I like to humbly request that we unmute and say thank you. Let our voice echo in our
Thank
ears so that
you.
she transition again.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So much.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate you all.
Thank you
Very much, ma'am.
Thank you,
Very
ma'am.
enriching session. Well done.
Thank you so much. All right. So 1 second. I think this was the slide on. Do you share the slides? I can share the slide with you, right? So you can.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
Fine. That's fine. Thank you. Have a good evening, everybody, and see you again.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Alaba.